Where is that manic pixie dream Senator Kyrsten Sinema these days? And how the hell is she still swindling the American people? As Democrats scramble to find their Rogan and their relevance, it's important to look in the rearview mirror from time to time at why and how they might have lost support and lost touch with their voters. Why did they lose faith? When did they stop believing? Who were the figures that made them sour on the party? I mean, other than Clinton's welfare reform and NAFTA and Biden's genocide and Bob Menendez's gold bars. But no one beats former Senator Kyrsten Sinema, a woman so hated and so easy to hate that nobody cares where the Y goes in her stupid fucking pageant name. A woman with such bad fashion sense that you'd have to be drunk to understand it. And it turns out she was. And a woman who you hoped you'd never have to think about again, except that after leaving the Senate, she's somehow still stealing taxpayer dollars and undermining our livelihoods. So let's do a little check-in with one Kyrsten Sinema, because since she's left office, she's been engaged in flagrant corruption that involves a lot of wine, fancy hotels, ski trips, and now cryptocurrency. What does her political trajectory tell us about pay-to-play Democrats and who we have to look out for next? We're talking about America's wine mom, Kyrsten Sinema. It's been over 6 months of the second Trump administration, and far too many elected Democrats are playing dead or are dying. 3 of them have. The Trump regime has managed to do so much in such little time. Hollow out the government and fire or buy out hundreds of thousands of federal workers, launch an entire crypto dynasty from the Oval Office, and pass the cruelest piece of legislation that transfers so much wealth from the poor to the rich, it would make Lucille Bluth gasp. I think many voters surveying the damage are wondering how in the hell they've been able to do so much in such little time, and why? Why? When Democrats were in power, they were not. Enter Senator Sinema, a sentient girl boss throw pillow whose perpetual midlife crisis looks like she's about to be introduced by your father as your new mom, right before your mom also introduces her as your new mom. Oh God, she's their third. In 2021, when Joe Biden and Democrats were supposed to deliver for Americans, then Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona was pivotal in doing one thing: stopping it. Remember, it wasn't just the American Rescue Plan which helped Americans out of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic and did things like lowered, my healthcare costs, which Trump is now undoing, but it was the plan that he ran on, Build Back Better, a $2 trillion piece of legislation that undoubtedly would have made all of our lives better. We're talking about universal preschool for 3 and 4-year-olds, elder home care, hearing benefits for Medicare recipients, $10 billion for a high-speed rail system, all while raising corporate taxes, and so many other things that would have brought the US into the last century. But because of Kyrsten Sinema's holdout vote, along with West Virginia's Joe Manchin, Democrats didn't have the votes in what Bernie Sanders called plain sabotage.
You got 2 members of the Senate, Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema, who have sabotaged what the president has been fighting.
That's a strong word, sabotage.
Sabotage. Well, you help me out with a better word here. You got 48 members of the Senate who wanted to go forward with an agenda that helped working families, that was prepared to take on the wealthy and the powerful. You got a president who wanted to do that. You had 2 people who prevented us from doing that. You have a better word than sabotage? That's fine, but I think that is the right word.
Oh, Bernie is big mad. Listen, Chucky, do you and your goatee want to sit down and have a little brainstorm sesh about what a better word would be? Because my guess is that the top 1% of words you're going to come up with are not better than the word sabotage, okay? Listen, all y'all, it's a sabotage. Instead, after much nut-cupping of Joe Manchin, what was passed was the Inflation Reduction Act, a piecemeal yet important step towards green energy initiatives, but a shadow of what Joe Biden was elected to do. Remember, this was off the back of Sinema and Manchin fiercely defending the filibuster, which effectively requires 60% of the Senate to back any legislation which they knew would tank Democratic majority's ability to pass anything at all. And even though Joe Biden got played by Kyrsten Sinema, he got back at her. In his way.
Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Congratulations, Kyrsten.
Aha, you hear that? Kyrsten. It's Kyrsten. But if we had actually been following someone like Kyrsten Sinema's trajectory, this rightward move wasn't unexpected. She had been signaling for a long time that she was no longer listening to voters and instead was open for business. And not just the business of her Facebook Marketplace side hustle where she sold used luxury items that is real. This is the skirt that I wore when I voted down a $15 minimum wage. Even before Biden was elected, Sinema was shedding her Green Party skin and becoming someone just motivated by green. She was elected to the Senate in 2018 when members of the squad came into power on a bold fight Trump message. But she was not with all that. She was against undoing Trump's 2017 tax break for the rich and made sure the Inflation Reduction Act protected tax schemes like the carried interest loophole, in part because private equity, hedge funds, and venture capital interests had been pouring money into her campaigns. She stood against net neutrality because she's been bankrolled by Center Forward PAC, a dark money PAC made up of corporate lobbyists for telecom companies like Comcast. Center Forward spent $12,227 on ads for Sinema in her House race against Republican Wendy Rogers all the way back in 2014, and then $100,000 in ads for her in 2018. When Mitch McConnell put the Green New Deal up for a Senate vote in 2019, in part to mock it, Sinema, again a former Green Party member, voted against it. She then received campaign contributions from oil and gas companies like ExxonMobil and the lobbying groups American Petroleum Institute and Domestic Energy Producers Alliance. And even though she used to tweet about lowering prescription drug prices, she was one of the leading recipients of money from the pharmaceutical industry, receiving more than $750,000 in donations from the pharmaceutical and medical device industries. And before you even ask, yes, a former anti-war organizer who once spoke out against funding Israel absolutely took money from AIPAC. She even got money from the disgraced multi-level marketing company Herbalife, which in 2016 had to pay the FTC $200 million for defrauding people, and got money from the Texas billionaire and Nazi memorabilia enthusiast Harlan Crow. And yet sadly, she still never landed that endorsement from Spirit Halloween. Kyrsten Sinema is the true embodiment of a corporate Democrat, a piggy bank for capitalists. And while everything in my being wants to liken her to a prostitute, I do feel like that's an insult to sex workers who are far more discerning and work way harder than a f***ing senator. What's crazy about all of that is it was basically legal. And here we are worried about Congress trading stocks. That is not even the half of it. Where it gets illegal and very cringe is what Kyrsten Sinema did in her spare time in between selling out the American people. That involved living her best life, running marathons, and drinking wine. A lot of it. Let's start with possibly the most absurd thing she's done, other than wearing this to the State of the Union address. It's giving mustard and hot dog, caterpillar and butterfly, online clearance rack impulse buy that's 2 sizes too small, and off with their heads, yellow queen of c***s. Other than that absurdity, it was that in August of 2020, Senator Kyrsten Sinema took an internship. Yes, even US senators are victims of the gig economy. No, but get this, she was a wine intern. You know, a student in the art of getting plastered on $300 Infidels and straightening the It's Wine O'Clock Somewhere merch. She worked at the Three Sticks Winery in Sonoma, California, that's owned by William S. Price III, a co-founder of TPG Capital, one of the largest private equity firms in the world, with $258 billion in assets under management that, oh yeah, contributed $6,800 to her Senate run. And the best part is, she was actually paid for the internship. Sure, it was like $1,000, but what the actual This is like the UN Secretary General moonlighting as a supreme clerk. Antonio Guterres is actually like a total hype beast. Then there was Sinema's running. Not for office, but marathons. Sinema's marathons were effective campaign cash cows. At least 6 different times since becoming a senator, she would raise money for her PACs, but then use it to pay for her marathon-related hotels and food expenses. $21,000 from Ventura, California while running the Mountains to Beach Marathon. $18,000 from Washington State while running the Light at the End of the Tunnel Marathon. She didn't even run the Boston Marathon in 2021 because she broke her foot, but still raised $36,000 from big money donors in Massachusetts. And when she finally did run it in 2022, she raised $16,000 and stayed at the Ritz-Carlton to the tune of $8,400. Yeah, the Ritz-Carlton, where all the real runners stay. The only honest budgeting her office did was time budgeting to ensure she had adequate rest time before race days, book recovery massages and physical therapy sessions for her during Senate workdays, and find hotels for her that had regulation-sized pools for lap swimming. Wow. Mitch McConnell could never. But if that didn't gross you out enough, she is still selling gently used running gear on her Facebook Marketplace page. And just before you freak out, remember, it's hard being a part-time senator / wine intern / marathon runner. Before you try to judge, why don't you try walking a mile in her Uggs? Yeah, her Uggs, which you can now buy for just $125 on Facebook Marketplace. Of course they're leopard print, a print fit for a Kyrsten. Sinema, of course, became an independent and lost her re-election bid, but in her final days as senator, she kept spending money. In fact, she spent far more than any other retiring senator, $700,000 in 3 months. And this bitch still wants $125 for her Ugg boots? We're talking very hungry caterpillar style spending. $11,000 on meals related to meetings, including $2,000 at the fancy DC seafood restaurant Salt Line, $15,000 for event catering, $10,000 for car services, $15,000 on airfare, $20,000 at a luxury hotel in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and $1,600 at a Taylor Swift gift shop because of course she's a Swiftie, she's a Kyrsten. Just so y'all know, retiring politicians usually donate the campaign cash they still have on hand to other political organizations or nonprofit groups. I mean, the losers do. The winners spend it on personal items that are technically illegal to do. Which is probably why Sinema has had 2 investigations into her questionably legal spending. One of them was dismissed by the FEC last August, and another brought by Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington is pending. And that alleged that Sinema for Arizona violated federal law by using campaign funds to fund her personal travel, including domestic, chartered, and international flights, as well as meals, catering, and lodging related to trips to Europe, Boston, the California wine country, and several other locations, which appear unrelated to any campaign or official business. Oh, that was business. I had to stay in the suite in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia. Yes, I was raising funds. No, I'm not running for office. What? Her campaign, Sinema for Arizona, has still been spending like crazy. According to a report from Not Us, in just 4 months of this year, it spent nearly $400,000. $71,000 on American Airlines tickets and related expenses like airport lounge access, $1,300 at Ed's Gun Shop in Vess, North Carolina for security protective equipment, won't ask, $4,662 in event tickets for Sinema's security detail, which Sinema's campaign lists StubHub and several concert venues among payees. She went to Taylor Swift. And get this, $616 in Aspen, Colorado for security detail ski tickets. Ski tickets for a security detail? What is this, James Bond? The name's Sinema. Kyrsten, where are you going? She also spent a ton of money on, yeah, you guessed it, wine, including $691 for event supplies at the Valley Wine Merchant in Newberry, Oregon, $315 for event catering at Total Wine and More in Phoenix, $246 for donor appreciation supplies at Total Wine in Bethesda, Maryland, and $196 at the Postino Wine Cafe in Phoenix for meeting meals. Meeting meals. Can you imagine what those meetings were like? Then I said to him, $15 minimum wage. The only minimums I believe in are 2 drinks. So what is the corrupt, most cringe former senator to do now? Now that she's out of office and she's almost done spending all the money that was never hers. Pivot to crypto to get money that isn't even money. Kyrsten has taken a job with Coinbase's Global Advisory Council. Remember that privatized, cities-obsessed, bald Brian Armstrong we spoke about before? Yeah, Coinbase is his company. She's now working alongside Trump's former 2024 campaign manager, Chris LaCivita, just as Trump rolls out plans to create a federal crypto reserve. The next financial crisis brought to you by Hot Topic and her ring that says, F*** off. because she's badass. But here's the thing. While Sinema undermined Joe Biden's legislative policies, she was never alone. And on crypto back in 2024, she was one of 11 senators that bucked Biden's attempts to prevent crypto's nefarious rise by voting to undo SEC guidance on it. Senators included Chuck Schumer and, of course, the other Kyrsten. Biden vetoed it, and now some of those same Democratic senators were pivotal in passing the crypto-friendly Genius Act under Trump. Looks like some of them aren't dead after all, so long as money's involved. But maybe having a former colleague in the industry helped. Hey guys, Francesca here. Look, I'm not as rich as a US Senator. This show relies on you, but also our sponsors like Factor Form. And I want to tell you about their daily greens. Look, before I started these, I didn't know you could get a green juice that didn't taste like grass. But Daily Greens by Factor Form is really refreshing. It's like citrusy and clean and smooth, and I like drinking it. You just mix it with water or put it in a smoothie, add a banana. It's delicious. So go to factor75.com/TBR and get 40% off plus free shipping on your first order. It's like, you gotta try it. There's no reason not to. I love it. I hope you will too. So start your day right with Daily Greens by Factor Form. Factor75.com/TBR to get 40% off plus free shipping on your first order. Factor75.com/TBR. Because while it's been fun to trace the messy bitch energy of Kyrsten Sinema's corruption, the fact that she's been able to get away with this much and is now a lobbyist tells you a lot about the Democratic Party. That one of the 50 most powerful Democrats was allowed to, likely illegally, spend campaign money to fund a lavish lifestyle while taking hand-over-fist corporate cash in order to block progress for millions of Americans tells us that they don't really care about corruption. Democrats will become incensed over Trump enriching himself from the White House and the Qatari luxury planes, and to be fair, that's bad. But their side of the street is not clean. Democrat Bob Menendez got 11 years for bribery charges and acting as an agent of Egypt. And sure, at various times, Democratic senators have talked about getting money out of politics and overturning Citizens United, but they've done nothing about it. Worse than that, they're playing the game too. And maybe because she seems like a Polly Pocket come to life, we focus on Kyrsten Sinema. But even Sinema's replacement, Senator Ruben Gallego, whose campaign got $10 million from crypto, is now out here holding fundraisers with major Trump backers like crypto king Mark Andreessen. What kind of opposition party can we expect with these kinds of senators? What kind of democracy do they expect us to believe they're trying to protect when the only time they can get anything done is when their corporate donors come calling? Thank you so much for watching the Bitchuation Room's long-form videos. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And if you want to support me and my small, awesome team, Paige Omek, Brent Godin, Andy Vasoyan, become a patron at patreon.com/bitchuationroom. $5 a month, $10 a month goes a long way and gets you that shout out during our Tuesday shows. Make sure to watch all of our other videos and come see me live August 1st and 2nd in Seattle. August 2nd is going to be a live Bitchuation Room. August 28th in Houston at the Houston Punchline. October 13th in Brooklyn at the Bell House. I hope to see you there, except I'll see you sooner because I'll see you next time.